Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and if you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like and share it. Now, I don't normally review video games, but this is something that I've been asked over and over and over during my playthroughs of the Call of Cthulhu. Is it worth the money? Should I buy it? So I thought I would make an exception and review the game for you all. It's important to note that I'm going to be reviewing this from a gaming standpoint, but also as a Lovecraft fan standpoint. I've never personally played the tabletop game that this is based off, but the tabletop game is based off of the Lovecraft mythos, which for those that have watched my channel for any length of time will know that I know very well and I personally love. So let's take a look at the cost first. This game cost me about £40, which obviously from that you can work out in your own currencies what it is, and it took me roughly 7 hours to complete. So instantly, I have to say that just from that alone, it actually isn't worth the money. Now, when I pay near £50 for something, I want it to be something which I can spend longer on. I purchased Fallout 4 for a lot less than that, and I still haven't completed it. Now, it's important to say, you can't actually compare the two, of course, because they are different beasts, but it's an example of money more wisely spent. £40 for a game that takes 7 hours to complete, to me, just isn't worth it. Now, that doesn't reflect on the quality of the game itself, because that is a separate discussion and we'll get to that in a moment. But just for time versus cost, it isn't worth it. I could happily recommend this game, however, if it was cheaper. I honestly had a fun time playing it. It's the first game on this channel that I've played and consistently cranked out the content for. I've completed this in a week. So from that standpoint, it's a very, very enjoyable game to play. The story is compelling and the twists and turns that happen during gameplay is very engaging. If only it was cheaper, I could recommend it. Now, the quality of the game itself, it's not great, but it's not terrible. It certainly just isn't great. This video game was delayed for a very long time. In fact, I believe it was delayed over a year or so, potentially even longer, which when it's delayed so heavily, you do expect some improvements to happen for that wait time. But unfortunately, there are NPCs that are identical. In fact, there is about 4 or 5 NPCs total in the whole game. The same skin over and over and over, which is near unacceptable in this day and age, especially when you have the likes of Red Dead Redemption 2 that came out the same week as this, and it features hundreds of different NPCs. So on that alone, it's something that really is bad. But overlooking that, the quality of the graphics in part are actually really good. Then in others, it really just lets itself down massively. It's as if the studio behind this game only really took its time to go back and work on the later chapters of the game, leaving the earlier stuff almost unfinished, I guess. The graphics quality in the later chapters is vastly improved over the earlier ones, and the bugs that I picked up, although having searched around, these do seem to be exclusive to the Steam copy of the game, but they also vanished in the later chapters. I liked the depth and the textures in this game. The environment was very nicely done, but the characters in the world were too cartoonish for my liking. Their mouths didn't move properly with the voice actors, and it was really just like watching bad dubbing in a movie or something like that. And also their hands would just flail around when they weren't actually speaking as animated as their body language implies, which is a very strange decision in terms of the animation side of things. The mechanics of the game are actually really good though. There are no glitches where you randomly end up in things, stuck on anything, nothing like that. So that does need to be praised. They got the world right, just the people in it wrong. The way your decisions affect your journey and destiny was a very nice touch. This is presumably a callback to the tabletop game. To me, it's as if you're playing a decide your story book. You know, you turn to page X or Y if you decide A or B. I really enjoyed this element to the game. But what I didn't enjoy was the fact that there was no real meaning behind my actions. So what I mean by that is, although I could change the way things pan out, there's no telling why those things did that in the end. So I was choosing things which I thought were good, but ultimately it ended up being bad. So to me, it didn't really make any sense. And I don't want a game to hold my hand either. So it's not that, it's just I want some hints at why my decisions do certain things. And this then leads me on to the puzzles and the riddles in the game. There are some puzzles when your character enters madness to complete in order to break free from being in that state, but they all appear to just be random. There is a certain thing that you need to do, of course, but unlike other great puzzle solving games, there's nothing in this game that leads you to that decision. You just have to guess randomly, which is such a letdown. This game has such a well thought out story and a well thought out world, only to be let down by puzzles that are just random. There was one puzzle that I can remember that was well thought out, and no spoilers, it basically just included opening a safe. And that was very nicely done. Everything else, no, absolutely awful. There was one where I'm running down a corridor and there's all these doors that just kept materializing, and you'd open one door and you'd be in the same corridor, and you just have to do it over and over and over again. And there was no logic behind it until I just randomly stumbled across how to get out of being in that state. Those kind of elements really let a game like this down. The name Call of Cthulhu would probably imply that the Great Dreamer would be in this game, and unfortunately those expecting him to turn up and be a main part to this game, something that maybe you go up against, you will be sorely disappointed. He isn't. But when he does arrive, it is glorious, and it is very, very nicely done. Overall, the story is such a strong point. I feel story-driven games like this are sadly a thing of the past, but when they do pop up, they just aren't long enough. But I will say this, it's a great major outing for this studio behind it, because up until this point, they've essentially only made like simulators, which were, well, simulators. So this is a huge step in the right direction for this game studio, and I would imagine they're going to reap an awful lot of profit from this game, because it was on Steam alone, it was one of the best sellers. So kudos to the studio, Cyanide Studio or something like that. Kudos to you guys. From a Lovecraft fan element, it does tick a lot of boxes. It has a world with cosmic horror and unknowns. You don't know if you're mad or if the occult is at play. The winding narrative tells a story of a descent into madness, but also potentially realization. So in that way, if you're a Lovecraft fan, which I was, this will definitely scratch that itch. It will satisfy you, but it's very expensive for a very small amount of satisfaction. I'm personally hoping that Sinking City comes out next year and it will be the Lovecraft game that I wanted this one to be. And just to answer, a lot of people have been asking me that if I'm going to be playing it here on the channel. I am. It'll be the same kind of format. I will just record myself playing it, about 40-minute episodes, and just crank it out. I know not a lot of people watch my playthroughs, but the response to me playing Call of Cthulhu seems to have been very, very well for those people that have been watching it. So yeah, I will be playing that. So all in all, I give the Call of Cthulhu a 7 out of 10. But for the cost, I have to knock a bit and bring it down to 5 out of 10. Just as a game, it is definitely a 7 out of 10. But in terms of the costing, it affects it, and I can't really say that it deserves to be nearly £50. I can't recommend that you guys go out and spend that money when it takes about 7 hours to complete. It just isn't. That wouldn't be fair of me to say. But that being said, I really do want to hear your thoughts of the Call of Cthulhu down below in the comment section. Have you played it? Did you enjoy it? What did you think? And were any of your gripes things which I've picked up on, or do you disagree with me entirely? I want to hear your thoughts, so please do let me know down below in the comment section. If you want to see me play it and you haven't, and you've just come to this review, then please do check out the playlist which I've linked in the description box. As always guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. I have been Mr. H, and I will catch you in the next video.